I'll follow your lead.
Follow my lead.
Mm-hmm. What's going on, everybody? My name's Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Welcome back. Oh, I think it's going to keep recording.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to an all-new episode of K-Drama Club. We are here to share our final thoughts on Startup, the K-drama on Netflix that we just finished watching.
A month ago.
Took a little break for the holidays, but we just wanted to do an episode where we wrap up our final thoughts on the whole series. For those of you who don't know, we've been doing episode by episode, following along with the whole K-drama. So if you want to go back and watch those or watch along with us, you're free to do that. Or if you just want to watch this video but spoilers ahead, so watch out.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the whole thing, we're going to talk about everything in the whole series.
Yeah.
So
save it till you've finished to watch this video for sure.
For sure. Before we start talking about our final thoughts on Startup and then also pulling some of the comments and what you all thought of Startup, we wanted to talk about what we're going to do next for the K-Drama Club.
Yeah. So
what are we going to do next?
What are we going to do next? So we got a lot of recommendations for which drama we should do next. Mm-hmm. Some of the more highly requested ones I kind of looked through. And originally, we are planning on doing Hospital Playlist next, but...
It was highly demanded.
Highly demanded, but they announced that there's going to be a season 2.
Right.
I read an article. So we're just going to wait until probably like a month before the season 2 comes out.
And then we'll watch it.
And then we'll watch it right before, because I think it makes more sense to do it that way, so you watch them both back to back. I've read one article that said that, so if that's not accurate, then let me know.
Let us know.
Yeah, but it said April that it was coming out. So
okay, so that's what we're not doing next for K-Drama Club. What are we doing next for K-Drama Club?
So what we are doing next is Crash Landing on You.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I heard that Chulsan is in this one.
Chulsan is in this one.
Yes.
So I have already seen this. Nick has not seen it yet.
Is this like, from what I hear, people think this is like the best K-drama?
It was a very popular one.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the biggest ones of 2019.
Yeah.
So it was a super, super popular one. It was the first one that I watched. So it kind of got me into the whole genre and everything that goes along with it. So it has like a special place in my heart, and
awesome.
I like it a lot. So we'll see what Nick thinks.
Yes, and since like this isn't a K-drama that's coming out every weekend, all the episodes are already out. We're going to do the episodes in batches, so you can follow along with us. We're going to watch about 4 episodes at a time. We're
planning to do one K-drama club video every week.
Right.
So then we're going to try to watch 4 episodes a week. And then cover all 4 in each episode.
Perfect. So make sure you subscribe for all of that. And we also do K-pop reactions and all that stuff. So subscribe. But we've gone on talking long enough. Let's talk about our thoughts on Startup. I really enjoyed this show. I had only watched one K-drama previous to this. It was Itaewon Class, and I really liked Itaewon Class as well. I would say Startup comes in second place for me out of 2.
Yeah.
But just to talk about like general like plot stuff and like what I thought about it, you have the 3 main plots, right? You have like the family drama, you have the business stuff, the startup stuff, and then you have the love triangle, which is like the biggest thing. And I thought each of those were like pretty intriguing. The love triangle obviously taking up most of the time and being like the center focus plot. And many people were frustrated by that, I would say.
Yeah, and I think I was one of those people.
Because you are Team Chipyoung all the way.
And I think since I finished it, when we finished the show, I think I was very like negative on it because it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go.
Right.
But looking back and like thinking about the show, I realized that like I was very emotionally invested in it.
Right.
Which that alone tells me that like I was enjoying the show.
Yes.
And even though it wasn't happening the way that I wanted it to happen, I think that I was still enjoying the show.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have trouble parsing that out, like because like we don't have like influence or control over the show, and like we're just watching the lives of these fictional characters unfold. So like if it doesn't go our way, that doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It just means like that's what's happening.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think the fact that it's so divided down the middle for this show just goes to show you that I think that it was like written in a way that was like...
It was meant to do that?
Yeah, it was meant to do it. Like it was written in a way that it's like very polarizing.
Yes.
But I don't think it's in a negative way. I think the people talking about it make it negative, when in reality it's just like I think it was well written in that way.
Yeah.
Like no, it's not like everybody's agreeing on this one thing.
Yeah.
It's very like up for debate.
And if that tension wasn't there, it wouldn't be as interesting, you know?
Exactly.
You wouldn't have the will they, won't they. I would say that they did stretch out the love triangle stuff a bit,
sure.
where to a point where some of the stuff just didn't make sense. Like Tosan goes away for years, and then Chipyoung doesn't make a move, but as soon as Tosan comes back, okay, it's drama again. You know, like some of that stuff just like doesn't quite add up, and I could see why people would be frustrated. But at that point, if you were on Team Chipyoung at that point, it's like, bro, you had your shot.
it was long gone at that point, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think of all the main plots, like those main three things you were talking about, I think the love triangle is kind of like the least interesting part of the show, or like almost like towards the end, it was the weakest part.
But that's the thing that they focused on the most, too, which is interesting.
And I think that's another reason why a lot of people are so frustrated at the end.
Yeah.
Because like I think the most emotional and investing scenes were the family scenes. The scenes with the grandmother and the granddaughters and like Chipyoung and the grandmother.
Absolutely.
And those were the ones that like, those are the scenes that almost made you cry in like every other episode.
Yeah.
I
agree.
I think that like, and the thing was, it was a major focus of the show.
Yeah. But it was definitely a B plot to the A plot of the love story.
But I think that the show in particular did a really good job in general of these like subplots.
For sure.
Like, all of the subplots.
Yes. My favorite subplot, for example.
Sahan Chulsan.
Sahan Chulsan, yes. I was thinking Stephanie the whole time.
Yeah, because that's her real name.
Yeah.
I thought the Sahan Chulsan plot was really, really good.
Yes.
I thought like the whole background story in the beginning with like the grandmother and when they're all kids and like setting all that stuff up for like 2 episodes.
That pays off so well. I don't know like if every K-drama does this, but Itaewon Class was similar because you have these like first couple episodes of just pure flashback. It's not even flashback because you don't know it's going to flash forward yet, really. Where you see a lot of American TV shows, you start right in the middle of the action and then later on in the series you get the flashbacks, but that robs you of like the emotional attachment to the younger versions of the characters. So with starting off with the characters all being younger or like in the past, you get that emotional attachment to their younger selves, and everything they experience from then on, you're experiencing through the lens of their past experience because you know their past experience, and that makes it 10 times more emotional.
Exactly. And then like there's even stuff like after those first couple episodes, they like set up all this stuff that's going on there, and you don't even realize how much more of it is going to continue to like come into the fold, like when with all the stuff when Tosan reveals that he like cheated on the math test, and like you learn more about that. And then like all this stuff with the father came back at the very, very end as well, with like talking to the woman who started Sandbox and like all that stuff. And it's like towards the end, they pulled even more from like those first couple episodes, and it just like made it feel even more like interconnected.
Like it wasn't just things that happened in the past that existed just to be like as flashbacks instead of future things. Like they continued to develop. Like Tosan wasn't just this big genius. He's like a super smart kid, but like there's more depth to it, like with everything you just said. And that is a great way to set up a show where you are super emotionally connected to the characters.
Exactly.
I guess the backdrop of like the startup and the business world, like that's definitely like the C plot, I would say. That's the stage that they're playing on. That's the backdrop of it all. I would say also though, when I first saw like an advertisement for this show, it was like very much focused on like, oh, the life of a startup, entrepreneur, whatever. So it was interesting to see it develop that it wasn't really focused on that. That was just kind of like I said, the backdrop. It was the setup. Which is fine because, you know, they do a great job of getting us emotionally connected to the characters.
Yeah. And then one more subplot thing that I was really disappointed in while we were watching the show was the Yongsan seeking revenge in the Chipyoung thing.
Yes.
And I think after that kind of got resolved, when they had when he grabbed him in the elevator and stuff.
Yeah, and then it was just over.
Yeah, I was super disappointed in it, and I thought that was one of the weakest one of the biggest gaps in the show that they missed.
Totally.
And it was one of the weakest points in the show.
So odd because they build it up so dramatically and it becomes not very dramatic at all.
But the one thing that they did that was good is when they had them sit down in the last couple episodes, and he tried to ask him why wouldn't you invest in this company, what would we need to do, and they kind of have the moment where they apologize to each other.
Yeah, that's the best thing that comes out of that.
Exactly. And I think that even now looking back at it, I'm it did add a little bit something to the show, even though it was I felt like it was super weak when I was watching the show.
Yes.
That moment at the end at least made it pay off a little bit and show a little bit of give the Yongsan character a little bit more
Right.
depth and things.
And those two characters being like the two opposite sides of that coin, I think is interesting. But I think having his brother having committed suicide because of like the pressures of the business world, and then having it build up like as a mystery, like, oh, who's plotting this revenge scenario? I think they could have been two sides of that coin without having such a dramatic setup to it, because the way they interact later and the way that it like evolves doesn't play out in a realistic way of people that have experienced that deep of trauma, like that traumatic of an experience, you know? So could there have been another way to put those characters in conflict so they could represent those two sides? Probably. But yeah, I agree that that was kind of a strange thing, but paid off well in the end.
Exactly. Yeah, I just think that from a real life standpoint, I think it played out in like a somewhat realistic way, where like nothing really happened from it. He just was like, "I'm mad at you," and like that was kind of the end of it. And it just like made Chi Pyong reflect a little bit, but like not really. They didn't really like show that in any meaningful way. That he,
except when they have that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, it like changed his thoughts on or the way he acted or anything like that. Yeah. But I think for like a TV show to like set up something that dramatic, and like the thing is like if he was just like, oh, my brother killed himself, like, but they set it up in like such a dramatic way where he was like a hooded figure,
a mystery
and,
character,
like we didn't know what was gonna happen, and then have it be nothing was a little strange.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's talk about how all of these different plots happening wrapped up in the end. Yeah. The business one is like the easiest one to talk about. Like they have this big successful business now. You know, like they get the contract and they expected. Like never could have expected anything else. I think that was the least like
But I think
suspenseful.
I think the biggest thing that comes out of that is that they're all working together. So like Chi Pyong, In-jae, Tosan, Talmi, like the whole group, where they were all kind of like separate in the beginning. Yeah. Are all like one unit now, and like they plan to stay that way. Yeah,
and even though we didn't get too much time, like they were actually separated for years, but we didn't like experience that for that long throughout episodes. Even though they were separated, the bringing the band back together thing was super satisfying. Yeah, so it's cool to see them all not only come back together and work together, but then like build this super satisfying, big, successful business. Yeah. So that wrapped up super easily. The love triangle, like the writing was on the wall by the end. Yeah. Like it didn't lead right up to the last episode at all. You kind of got a feel for what was going to happen. You know, Tommy and Tosan end up together, and Chi Pyong kind of accepts like, you know, his role
as a mentor.
As a mentor. Yeah. Looking for other things, which, you know, we kind of talked about that. People were frustrated one way or the other, depending on what team you're on.
Yeah, and I just think the biggest thing that they didn't do at the end of the series was like show us what happens after. They show that like Tosan and Talmi get married, and they show that like Saha and Chulsan are together, but they don't show us anything with Chi Pyong's foundation. Like when he starts the foundation, or like he tries to help the kids, that kind of thing.
Would have been good to see that. Yeah, because that was his biggest point of growth.
After the flash forward into the future where they're showing the pictures on the desk, and there's nothing about Chi Pyong there. Right. There's things showing like In-jae and the family back together. Yeah. There's stuff showing everybody, but there's nothing about Chi Pyong. So we literally get no like ending for what happens with Chi Pyong. Totally. And I think that is frustrating for just people who like that character, even if he doesn't get the girl and he's not.
It's even more frustrating because then you don't even see like what did he do, like what did he learn, how did he grow.
Yeah. So I think that is something that they missed out on.
Totally.
I think that whole ending scene with the going across the desk was kind of weak in general.
I have huge speculation about that. Yeah. Because I think, well, most of the actors posted at the end of November about the last day of shooting, like a celebration for the last day of shooting. Yeah. And like COVID lockdown started in like March, April. Yeah. My speculation is that something was going down with the shooting and they didn't have so much production crew, or people had to travel back to wherever they're originally from, and that they kind of had to compromise on the ending. Because otherwise, why would you do that? That scan of like Polaroids and then just have the 4 leads walking together when obviously they built up so much about all the other characters. Yeah. That seems odd. That's my speculation. I looked up to try to see like what was going on, if there was any reports about that, but there's nothing really. So it's just pure speculation.
I did read some stuff online too about people speculating that they had filmed the first 12 episodes and then they had the last 4 written and they ended up like dramatically changing it because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
This is all like weird conspiracy, speculation kind of stuff. But I can kind of see that because the last 4 episodes, it like when it flashes forward to the future, do seem like very different in a way. Like,
totally.
Like everything kind of like shifts. I don't know. It seems, especially the last 2 episodes, I think, like with the whole like they set up a lot of things and they didn't really like follow through on them. I felt like.
Right. And this, especially for episodes that ended up airing, in December, right?
Yeah.
Like the final episodes airing in December. I imagine the cast was sharing photos in November that had maybe been taken weeks before, like way before, but maybe not that much before. So that is a quick turnaround time regardless.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? If you have information or speculation about that, let us know in a comment. That's what I think about that ending. We talked about the business, we talked about the like love triangle, and now let's talk about the family wrap up, which I think is also a very, very satisfying ending.
One of the most satisfying scenes in the whole entire show. Like, this is probably the scene that brought me the closest to tears.
The grandmother, right?
Yeah, it was when EJ goes back and she, like, has the papers where she changed her last name back. And, like, the grandmother, like, looks over at the couch and, like, sees the whole family together.
Yeah.
And she said, and, like,
including the father.
Yeah, and EJ's like, and Tommy's like, oh, you should have come back while she could still see you. And the grandmother's like, I see you so clearly right now.
Yeah. That was the most satisfying thing.
I think that scene in the whole entire show is the scene that brought me the closest to actually crying.
Like super emotional.
Yeah.
But that's a great wrap up. And it's interesting because the show, it does build up like that eventual love triangle plot with, Chi Pyong and the letters and stuff. But it really starts with the sisters.
Yeah.
Like the sisters being super close, like almost, they're not twins, but like very close in age. And then getting separated, and then to see those 2 sisters be at odds throughout the whole show, and then come back together and come back together as a family. I don't know, that was just great.
Yeah, and it was even with their grandmother and their mother also being at odds,
but
being
true.
able to come back together as people who like support each other and need each other.
Yep.
It's kind of almost like in the same way.
Yeah. That was really beautiful. Great ending.
I think the family, I consider the Chi Pyong with the grandmother stuff part of this like family thing as well.
Yeah.
And even those were some of the more emotional scenes when those are the only times where Chi Pyong actually let his emotions show.
Yes.
Were in those scenes with the grandmother.
And they have a very unique relationship. I think like the grandmother is one of the most important characters in the whole show.
Yeah.
Like she's not just like some side, character or whatever, because she has that unique perspective of being the grandmother of these 2 these 2 granddaughters that are like the main driving force of the show, and then having this connection on the side that one of her granddaughters doesn't even know about.
Exactly.
And they're so closely linked, and she becomes like this parental figure, and they take care of each other. I don't know, everything about that is great.
Yeah, like throughout the show, the grandmother is the one who knows almost
everything.
She's the only character that like pretty much almost knows everything. She doesn't know everything that's happening, but she knows more than anybody else does.
Yes.
Because she has all these ties that they don't know about.
Right. Quick note about the visual style. What did you think of how it looked?
I think that this show is shot in a very like artistic way, if that makes sense. Like compared to Itaewon Class, like I feel like Itaewon Class is very like dark and
slightly
like,
more conventional.
Yeah, like more
looking.
like brooding kind of show, like you're typical of like a drama.
Yep.
Where this was like it was very bright.
Very bright and very saturated, like super colorful. Almost like a lot of scenes like had a pinkish hue almost.
And it was a lot of like I don't know if this is different from other shows, but like a ton of just like changing focus, like within the same shot, like
super shallow.
Yeah, and like they would shoot, like through windows a lot and through like a mesh thing where like I don't know, the perspectives were a little different.
Cinematography was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
What's
going on, buddy?
Come on, there.
Looks so comfortable.
Down. Yes.
But what did you think?
Yeah, that was my only note, that it looked super saturated, like very, very colorful, very like almost dreamlike, like with like a certain glow or haze to it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and even especially I would say in the beginning, like the first couple episodes when it's like almost like the flashback stuff, like the early stuff. I think even then it was like even more like exaggerated in that kind of like dream looking way.
Yeah. The soundtrack.
All right, I have a lot of thoughts about the soundtrack.
I have my top 3 songs.
Oh, you have your top 3 songs?
Yes.
I just want to say that this soundtrack is so good.
It's so good.
This is such a good soundtrack. I think it's one of the strongest points of the show.
For sure.
Like they tie. I think most K-dramas tie everything together really well with the music.
Yeah.
But with this show, these songs, I can like go back and listen to them and like
experience the same emotions as in the show. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, and just like listen to them as if it's like a song like that I would listen to. It doesn't feel like I'm listening to like a TV show soundtrack all the time. Yeah, like the songs just like hold up. Like it's a very good soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course we have Red Velvet with some bangers. Future that's my number 3. I'm gonna go backwards. That's a great song.
It's great.
It's also like a little bit cheating because like it's got that hook in English, so it's super easy to get caught in, like my head at least. I don't speak Korean, but that's a great song.
It's a good song.
Yes. My number 2 is very, very sad. It's Day and Night by, how do I say that?
Jung Sung-hwan.
Jung Sung-hwan. Day and Night is a very sad ballad with piano. It's so sad. Yeah. Like you can listen to that and just like see the scenes with the grandmother and the family or whatever. Yeah. Like, and then my number 1 is, of course, Running. Which is like, if you want to get amped, we both get pretty amped with that song. We put it on in the car, get pumped up. It's got those snare drum hits in it. Those are my 3 favorite songs.
Yeah. And the thing is, so the Running song is by Gaho, and he has the other song in Itaewon Class. That's almost like the same feel.
Same, like makes you energetic.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that song that's like during like when the best things are happening in the show, like that's the song that's playing. Yeah. So the soundtrack is so good.
The soundtrack is so good. I love it.
Yeah.
How about a couple fun facts?
What do you got?
All right. So, as you know, but the viewers do not know, my parents have been watching this show.
Yep.
So we recommended it to them, and they've been watching it. And my mom is an avid crocheter. She's really good at crocheting things. And of course, one of the subplots is, Tosan and the boys started a knitting club. So like Tosan like knits a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's got stuff in his bedroom that's allegedly knitted, and then he knits that cactus at the end.
Yeah.
The only problem is, now here's the important point, is knitting and crocheting are 2 different things that people have to understand. 2 completely different things. And my mom, being a super avid crocheter, pointed out that pretty much everything Tosan has is crocheted and not knitted.
Yeah, so I call this Knitgate.
This is Knitgate 2020.
Yeah.
But one speculation that we did have that we didn't fact check is like, could the translation just be wrong?
That's true. But no, because knitting is with 2 needles and crocheting is with 1.
And they showed it, too.
They showed him knitting.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So, yes. And, like, I would never really know that. You can tell by looking at things, but the cactus at the end, I could specifically tell was not knitted and was crocheted.
Yeah, because your mom makes all those, like, stuffed animals.
Yeah, because she makes stuff that's crocheted, and I could recognize it. So, watch out. That's a gaffe.
Yeah, they messed up. Big time. Big hole right there in the plot.
The other fun fact came from a commenter, and you're going to have to help me fill in the blanks here.
Okay.
Because it came during that episode where Chipyoung was trying to get rid of the plant.
Yeah.
He's trying to like spitefully get rid of the plant, and he meets this security guard in a parking garage, and they're basically like doing this comedy bit that like doesn't really fit with the rest of the show, and this character comes out of nowhere, but they're just like really funny together. And a commenter let us know that they had previously been on a show together, like a comedy show.
Yeah, like a sketch show or like a sort of a variety show of sorts. Yeah.
So that was really funny, and I bet a lot of other people, like especially people watching this in Korea, got that, and we did not get that. Yeah. But we could tell that something was
because
happening.
The thing is, it was a very weird scene, but it was very memorable.
Yes.
Like that security guard happened, and we were both like, they need to put this in the show.
Yeah.
Like, this guy needs to be in the show. Like what's going on here?
He should be a character.
This is awesome.
So it'd probably be like if like on an American show, if we saw like some funny comedian guest starred in some show or something and showed up just to do something funny. But that was cool. Those are my 2 fun facts.
Yeah.
Knitgate 2020 and the guard in the parking garage.
Yeah, there were a couple cameos in the show actually too, because Saha's sister at the end, that commenter also let us know that was a really famous actress, but we just aren't aware.
And we assumed that Saha's sister was that fortune teller character.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because there was that weird like focus on her, almost like her arrival like meant something. So like it was a reveal, but turns out the reveal was because she's
like a
famous actor, not because we've seen her before.
Yeah.
That's all of our thoughts on Startup so far, but let's react to some comments from folks from previous episodes of the K-Drama Club and see what you all had to say. What do we got?
Everything was resolved, but nothing directly, so it felt like a soft landing. Still happy, but slightly anticlimactic. Thank you for your in-depth reviews.
Well, if this show had a soft landing for our next K-drama, we'll definitely have a crash landing. I don't know if I agree with that. A soft landing? I think Tosan and Tommy ending up together, very definitive.
Yeah.
I think Injae ending up back with the family, also very definitive. So I don't know if I agree.
Yeah, I just think this person probably likes Ji-pyong.
Probably, yeah.
Because I would say we get no landing.
Ji-pyong gets no landing, so that's fair on that point.
So someone else, Lourdes Gomez Lasso.
Nice.
I have to agree that I feel something was missing, but the problem was not in the last episode, but the last 6 episodes. Need more Injae and Ji-pyong scenes related to their work or their life in general. I also feel the business part was lacking and the love triangle was totally unnecessary. So that's kind of exactly the same as our thoughts, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the love triangle is unnecessary. I'd say it get drawn out like a bit.
Yeah.
But it is good to have love stories. I would have loved to see more Injae. Like more we never get Injae just living her life or anything.
Yeah, it's always how it relates to Tommy and Samsan
and the family.
And the family.
Yeah.
So I did feel throughout the show like there was a sort of lack of Injae.
Yeah.
But I think that she was very central to like the plot, but
we got the least from her.
Not related to like her. It was related to like her relationship with everybody else.
Exactly, how she affected all the things around her.
Exactly. So I think the scenes where it showed her like at her old stepfather's company and like when she decided to quit and like those were like the only real scenes where you saw like her in relation to like her own position in her own life.
Yeah.
And everything else was kind of like how as it relates to like Tommy's situation.
Yeah. And her journey is really impressive because she goes from, like making this decision at a very young age to go live with her mom and getting in good with the stepfather, so having a very successful business career, but then leaving that to do something on her own. Like, that's almost its own show.
Yeah.
Like, you could basically probably have a show just from her perspective that follows her across the plot of this show.
Exactly. And it would be
interesting. Yeah.
All right, so this is an interesting take that I had not heard.
Okay.
So right before the 3 guys went to San Francisco, Tosan, Alex, and Ji-pyong are seen in a meeting together. I assume Ji-pyong talked to Alex about letting Tosan continue to work on Noongil. If that was the case, how come Ji-pyong didn't get any credit for that during the rest of the show? So they all meet in the office right before they go to San Francisco, and the meeting was because both of them wanted to continue Noongil.
Which they were basically just going to shut down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then when they left, they showed Tosan continuing to work on it, and he kept updating it and everything while he was in San Francisco. And I actually replied to that comment.
I assumed that Tosan was just doing that on his own.
Yeah, and I also think that Ji-pyong went there to ask him for the same thing, for the sake of the grandmother, because he knew she needed the app.
Yeah.
But I also think that Ji-pyong would never tell her that he did that.
Totally. He would never tell her, he would never tell Tosan, he would never tell anybody.
Yeah, Tosan knows obviously because he was there.
Yeah.
But like he wouldn't tell Tommy and stuff because he doesn't like to reveal himself in that way. Like reveal his emotions and his feelings.
Like if he did something for somebody, he wouldn't
He doesn't
tell
really like,
somebody
he doesn't go like, he's not the kind of person to like flaunt it. He just does it kind of behind closed doors because he wants to seem like indifferent. Like he doesn't, like nothing affects him. Because that's like his shield. Yeah.
So I don't think it's a matter of him not getting credit. I think it's like, that's just what kind of guy he is.
I think if Tosan wanted to keep working on Noongil, they would have left it open. True. I don't think that Ji-pyong going there was like the deal breaker or like what made it so that could continue happening. Yeah. I just think that it just went to show you, like it was just another thing to show you how much he cared about the grandmother, that he would like step out of his lane and go there and say like, let him continue working on this app.
For sure. His mortal enemy at that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Those are our thoughts, and those are your thoughts on Startup. If you have more thoughts on Startup, let us know in a comment. We'll keep reading them, and Joe replies to a lot of them. So, like we said at the beginning, we will be starting a new K-drama club with Crash Landing on You, 4 episodes at a time. So if you want to watch along with us, you can go ahead and start watching the first 4 episodes of that show. Or if you've watched it already and you just want to catch our thoughts on it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, put notifications on so you know when we put up a new video, and follow along with us because we'll be looking for people to fill us in on stuff we don't know about that show too in the comments. So that'll be super helpful. That's it. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Wait, We didn't point out the hoodies.
Oh yeah, the shirts.
Check it out.
Well, let's put this at the beginning of the video.
Yeah.
We got the shirts. We got the shirts.
We got it. Look at it.
I said I didn't like the show that much, and then I got the shirt.